It's a big day at the Academy of Extraordinary Abilities. A young man is distracted on his cell phone, playing a game and asking when they will surrender. In the game, he's extraordinary. This is Ning Feng, who continues his frantic gaming, saying that with such an advantage, it's impossible for him to lose. However, someone raises their hand and lands a hit right on his face. From the ground, he sees that it's Wang Yue. Angry, she asks him what he thinks he's doing, since the awakening exam is about to start. And isn't he going to prepare a little instead of playing games? He, smiling, asks if work and play aren't a great combination. Besides, he's already 18. At most, he'll awaken a common 2-star class. Ning Feng approaches Wang Yue and tries to take advantage, saying that she awakened a 5-star class at 16, so why should he try so hard? She could just carry him. She immediately grabs him by the neck and angrily shouts that there's no way she'll do that. The protagonist gets scared because she's about to start her lectures. Around them, the candidates for the exam watch, saying that she's the goddess Wang Yue, and she stood out in the last special training. More candidates gather, admiring her, as she awakened a 5-star class at 16, and the county has been waiting for a genius like her for a long time. But they are puzzled, wanting to know who that guy next to her is. One of the candidates replies that it's Ning Feng, known throughout the school as trash, and that he's about to turn 18 and still hasn't awakened. Wang Yue starts pulling him by the ear, dragging him to the exam entrance. The candidates, still watching, get angry that someone like her is hanging out with that idiot. This world is called Blue Star, a world where the game has merged with reality. As soon as you turn 16, everyone has the chance to awaken extraordinary abilities and become adventurers. This was the National Adventurer Awakening Exam of 2025, held at the No. 7 high school in the city. One of the supervisors calls the attention of the second-year students, saying that he will explain the rules of the exam. After explaining the rules, he shouts that the next awakened one could be one of them. Disappointed with Wang Yue's actions, Feng wonders why she needs to make such a fuss, as this is his 3rd time taking the old exam. He's no longer a rookie. In one of the exam sections, the teacher Chi Wei explains that the called student should please go to the test area for the awakening, and that the students who successfully awaken can pick up a set of basic equipment for their class and prepare for the practical test. In line, the candidates start chatting about which class they want, but Feng remains bored until the teacher calls the next 3rd-year student Ning Feng. He steps forward, and all the candidates present start laughing at him. He greets the teacher, and she, smiling, tells him not to worry and to stay calm. In the test area, she asks Feng to place his hands on the crystal and relax his mind. He does, but nothing happens, leaving him worried that he might fail again. However, something catches his attention. The crystal begins to react, surprising everyone present. Chi Wei, looking at that reaction, thinks that if the stone reacted, it will definitely be a class awakening, and that blue light represents magic classes. She explains to Feng that upon awakening, they automatically learn initial skills, and that next, they will see how many stars the class will awaken. Feng is surprised as the system informs him that he has awakened 1 star, and that his learned skill is magic slime. This makes Chi Wei feel sorry for him since he only awakened 1 star. The candidates burst into laughter, telling him to leave quickly as he's embarrassing himself, and that trash is trash, so he couldn't be anything more than that. The teacher asks Feng what skill he has awakened, but he remains silent. This prompts the teacher to call him again, and he turns around, unsure of what to say. She imagines he was hit by something big, given how long he's been silent. Looking at him, she still feels sorry for him, as he's still just a 1 star. The teacher hands him the equipment and instructs him to change and proceed directly to the next phase. Seriously, he wonders if he heard correctly. Feng starts thinking about the system notifications at the moment he awakened. The system had detected that the host had completed the awakening and met the conditions for system activation. This left him even more intrigued about the system, especially since more notifications had arrived at that time, stating that the system was successfully activated and that the host had acquired it. The system further explained that the passive abilities, such as Dark Origin and Mysterious Gift, the passive ability Dark Origin ensures that he does not suffer the backlash of Dark Force when using curses, with exemption from costs when using prohibitions, and with the passive ability Mysterious Gift, he can unleash forbidden spells once a week without any consumption, but these details were only visible to the protagonist. This leaves him intrigued, wondering if the Dark Force is not the most malevolent in that world, and why Mysterious Gift? What could it have to do with him? As he's pondering this, another system notification appears, informing him that the magic slime ability has been detected and that the transformation would begin, making him worried about this transformation thing. Once again, the system notifies him that the transformation has been completed, and the magic slime ability has become Profane Earth Shield, leaving Feng confused. Feng becomes concerned, as this talk of Edtada darkening and also forbidden curse seemed quite ominous, especially with the practical test approaching. At the portal to the practical test, the teacher explains that 50 people will form a group and face the monsters in the Denchi Sanctuary, familiarizing themselves with the abilities they've just awakened. However, under no circumstances will the candidates be allowed to form teams with each other. They will not be permitted to attack one another, and drones will supervise the process. Chi Wei asks everyone to check their abilities as quickly as possible and assures them that no one will be able to see. Feng observes on his system that the ability is active and that the Profane Earth Shield, cursed magic, can invoke the dark force from another world to form a barrier capable of crushing any enemy that approaches. He becomes thoughtful about the cursed magic because those words sounded quite dangerous. And if it's some kind of malevolent magic, he'll be in trouble if someone finds out. While thinking about this, everyone starts entering the portal, but intrigued by the information he had received about his abilities, he keeps asking the system for more explanations, which in turn provides him with nothing. Heading straight to the portal, already in the test area, everyone was already frantically battling, quite excited. Feng watches from a distance, noticing that more and more goblins are arriving. However, he remembers that the entire field is under drone surveillance, so he can't use that curse recklessly. But he also remembers that he doesn't have other means of attack, so he'll only be able to hide and wait for the opportunity. One of the drones starts hovering right above Feng. In the test supervision room, Captain Zhou, seeing those images, gets angry, saying that while others are killing monsters and leveling up, what the hell is that guy doing? Chi Wei, trying to be lenient about the situation, says that the young man awakened a bit late and that, moreover, his health is not very good, and his only activated ability is a defensive magic, so it's not suitable for individual combat. Hearing this makes the captain even more irritated, asking them to call Feng out, as there's no need for him to continue in the exam, since, anyway, he's just a one-star class and won't be a true adventurer. One of the people in charge of supervising the images coming from the drones interrupts him, asking him to take a look at something quickly. Zhou turns around, asking what's going on. Sweating profusely, the guy with glasses says he wasn't sure what had happened. It seemed that one of the drones had been attacked by something, and the transmission had been cut off. To make matters worse, he points to the radar, saying that the monitoring alert detected a power fluctuation far above the average in the sanctuary. Immediately, Captain Zhou shouts, ordering someone to check what was going on. At the location where the drone was shot down, a young man was trembling all over, saying, "How can there be such strong monsters in the training field?" In front of him was a huge goblin resembling Wolverine. The goblin wastes no time and shouts for his companions to rise and no longer allow themselves to be enslaved, commanding them to obey his orders. He shouts even louder that all those invaders should be buried there, driving his allies into a frenzy. While he was shouting, one of the drones approached, but the goblin immediately noticed and attacked, destroying it. The debris begins to fall into the forest, and one piece lands right on Feng's head, making him wonder why on earth a drone would fall on his head. But he soon notices something. and is surprised to see the Vanguard Goblin and the other goblins surrounding him. With a sinister look, the Vanguard Goblin laughs, saying that it seems there was an insect hiding there. Without wasting any time, the Goblin leader orders the attack. Feng watches, wondering why so many monsters are gathering there, and judging by the size of the middle goblin, he's probably the leader. However, recalling that some drones were taken down, his expression changes, and he says that this would be a great chance to test if that curse is really real. Immediately feeling confident, he raises his hand, and an incredible energy begins to emanate from his body, scaring the monsters and worrying the goblin leader as well. With a sinister energy, he shouts his ability, Profane Earth Shield, causing several terrifying creatures to rise from the ground. Back in the supervisor's room, the guy with glasses informs Captain Joe that all transmissions have been lost, and that suddenly there was a leak of dark force in the sanctuary. It's suspected that a magic beast of king level or higher has appeared. Immediately, Captain Joe orders reinforcements to be called, and for all nearby civilians to be evacuated. This horrifies teacher Chi Wei as well, as she wonders how a magic beast of king level or higher, with the power to destroy an entire city, could appear on the day of the exam. Back at the battle with the protagonist, the goblin leader is terrified by what he's witnessing. As the protagonist is consumed by that ability, a strange dark power envelops him, making his creatures tear through the goblins. Feng begins to look at his hands, thinking that cursed magic works that way. At this moment, the goblins continue to be slaughtered by the creatures the protagonist conjured, and several system messages appear, notifying him that by killing the goblin soldiers, he gained several experience points. A dark energy begins to approach the goblin leader, leaving him frightened, as he says that the power of the dark force is simply incredible, and he wonders how that human obtained it. As that enormous power approaches, he tries to run, but he feels his movements becoming extremely slow. But it's too late. The power reaches him, and screaming, he begs it not to come near him. The energy engulfs him completely, making the system notified that the Vanguard Goblin has been obliterated, granting 6,000 experience points to the protagonist. Feng's status window appears, notifying that he is a mage class, and due to the experience gained in battle, he went from level 1 to level 10. Currently, he has 0 health, 8 strength, 8 agility, 20 spirit, and 12 resistance. This makes him happy as he leveled up easily, and in the practical exams of previous years, at best, they could only level up 1 or 2 levels. But then he becomes intrigued, thinking that the experience from common monsters is quite low, especially depending on that elite monster. Still deep in thought, he wonders how an elite monster could have appeared in the exam field. As he contemplates all this, various items begin to fall from the sky. Surprised, he realizes that it's the loot dropped by the elite monster. And even more impressively, all that equipment is of orange quality. Looking at the item Vanguard badge, he finds it strange because he's never seen an item that increases attributes. The item in question is consumable, has orange quality, and permanently increases the agility attribute by 10. Another item, the Shadow Claw of the Slayer, is also of orange quality, but requires level 20 to use. It grants an additional 13 strength, 16 agility, 10% attack speed, 5% critical rate, and 10% chance to activate combo, and it can be used 3 times. Feng is thrilled with the items, even though he can't use the claw yet, but he thinks he could get good money by selling them. Confident, he believes that now he can easily face higher level monsters and finally start to prosper. Just as he's thinking this, the supervisors announce that all students must immediately abandon the test and use the teleport scrolls to exit, which makes him worry about what's happening. Looking around more carefully, he notices something. Feng turns in all directions, realizing that everything around him has been devastated, and he thinks that all those craters are the work of the dark force, which is terrifying. Once again, the supervisors make an announcement, and immediately he uses the teleport scroll, saying that it's better to get out of there quickly to avoid being discovered. One by one, the candidates start to return, And, finally, Feng as well. The supervisor immediately instructs them to leave the area and go home. Frustrated, Feng keeps thinking about magic beasts of king level or higher. Even if everyone there joined forces, they wouldn't be able to resist. Still worried, he wonders if the reinforcements arrived in time. However, he changes his reaction because, unbelievably, the source of dark energy disappeared. But this makes him suspicious, wondering if it's possible that the monster escaped from the sanctuary. Chi-Wei continues listening to orders over the communicator, saying that this situation has gone beyond what they can handle and that no one should cause alarm. They must avoid large-scale disturbances and initiate the school's magic seal, leaving only one exit so that unrelated people can leave quickly. Feng approaches, calling for the teacher. She, sweating nervously due to the situation, asks the protagonist if he's okay. Unconcerned with what's happening, he says he's fine, but she shouts for him to return immediately because the school is temporarily closed, and he should not come back unless necessary. Away from the school, Feng and Wang Yue are talking. Wang Yue tells the protagonist that the teacher had a very strange expression, as if they were facing a mortal enemy. She mentions that rumors say a source of unknown energy was detected inside the school, and that the entire school has been isolated. This makes Feng wonder if it's possible that the unknown energy source has something to do with that elite monster. Disappointed, he thinks that just as he awakened, the school got shut down. Wang Yue becomes worried about him, thinking that the event had a big impact on him. She tries to cheer him up, saying that defensive magic can guarantee his survival, but they aren't suitable for individual training. Starting tomorrow, she says, he'll join them as part of a team. Trying to appear strong, he declines and thanks her, saying she shouldn't worry as he can train on his own. With a foolish expression, he imagines himself resolute with his power, but at the same time, he knows he can't expose himself because if they discover the forbidden dark magic, it'll be a problem. Wang Yue, serious, points her finger at him and says she won't accept his refusal, and that tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, they'll be waiting for him at the West Gate. With that, she leaves, leaving the protagonist talking to himself. In shock, Feng thinks that woman acts like she's his wife, behaving that way. Sweating nervously, he wonders what he'll do now, and if it would be a good idea to come up with some excuse. But he decides it's better not to, as dealing with her personality is relatively difficult. As he thinks about this, an idea comes to mind, but he's not sure if it will work. Feng decides to head to the Yuancheng trading house. Looking at the huge building, he thinks that some weapons come with built-in abilities. He could buy equipment with the dark slime ability and pass himself off as a mage. Feng enters the store, hoping the system won't turn the built-in abilities of the equipment into curses. Besides, he can sell the drops from the monsters he killed. The sales clerk approaches him, asking how she can help. He replies that he would like to buy equipment with the dark slime ability, whether it's a weapon, clothing, or item. She asks the protagonist if he is a newly awakened student and explains that actually, low-level spells like dark slime aren't worth buying specifically. However, they do have high-level equipment there, more suitable for training, and she could show him some options. He simply says it's unnecessary, as he needs something temporary, so the equipment's grade doesn't need to be very high. She thinks it's all a waste of time and asks the new trainee to come help him. She leaves, stressed, saying that after all this fuss, it seems he's just a poor guy, so she won't even bother. Let the newbie handle it. The protagonist is left confused. The new trainee arrives with a smile and asks if he needs anything. The protagonist explains what he needs. She leads him to the items and starts testing them, starting with an iron arm, which gets him excited, then a heavy hammer, which he can't even lift off the ground. Feng tries on a ring and decides to go with it. The trainee asks if he's satisfied with the ring. He laughs and says it's great, thanking her for accompanying him all the way. Feng also takes the opportunity to ask if it's possible to sell items he got as monster drops. She replies that yes, it is, and she'll take him to the responsible department. She leads him to the identification room. Master Wang asks them to come in. The trainee informs him that the young man wants to sell battle items. The protagonist takes out the claws and asks for help in appraising the item and its value. Wang takes the claws and is astonished, as it's an orange-quality weapon focused on agility and doesn't require a high level, making it suitable for novice players. Additionally, it comes with 3 gem slots, allowing for attribute adjustments as needed, creating a more personalized effect. Wang, intrigued, says it's a good item and believes that several clients in his guild would be interested in it. He asks if Feng has any specific price expectations. The protagonist, pleased, simply says that the higher, the better. The analyst asks Feng to sit down, saying he'll make some calls to potential buyers, and asks Miss Yang to take care of him. She responds that he can rest assured. Wang, speaking with someone named Mr. Jiang, asks if he was looking for a good item for Jin Lang, as he has one available there. Feng sits down, and Miss Yang serves him tea. The analyst returns, informing the protagonist that the equipment has been sold and that the buyer is willing to pay 50,000 crystals. After deducting the 8% transaction fee, he would get 46,000 crystals. This leaves Feng and Yang speechless, as it's a large amount. They stand up, still in shock at the information. Wang says they can finalize the procedures right there, and that once everything is set, the crystal transfer will be quick. The protagonist asks for it to be done quickly and requests to see some more equipment. While the final preparations are being made, in another section, the attendants are talking. A black-haired one asks the girl who dismissed the protagonist if she doesn't like handsome men and why she left him aside. She, being snobbish, says that she likes handsome men with money and power, and that guy didn't even deserve to be in the same place as her. Some time passes, and from afar, the attendants notice the protagonist returning, asking if he was the client she didn't want to attend to. The one with her hair tied up says she heard that the young man sold a piece of equipment for 50,000 crystals. The black-haired one is shocked, saying that amount is equivalent to 3 months of her salary. Hearing all this leaves her stunned. She starts to regret it, wondering why she wasn't the one to help him. Outside, Miss Yang tells Feng that when he returns, he should just ask for her next time. With a smile on her face, she introduces herself, saying her name is Yang Xin. The next day, Feng, cheerful and whistling, walks to the meeting place set by Wang Yue, thinking that the night before, he tried out the spells embedded in the equipment, and apparently, they aren't affected by the system. This reassures him, as no one will notice. The protagonist arrives at the location and spots Wang Yue, immediately greeting her. However, other people greet her as well. They are the members of her guild: the mage, the shield warrior, the berserker warrior, and the cleric. She introduces them to Feng, but the mage and shield warrior give him dirty looks. Intrigued by those looks, he wonders if he might owe them money. Zhao Cheng approaches Yue, asking if she's about to undergo a second transformation. Hearing this surprises Feng, as he realizes that every 30 levels, you can undergo a transcendence. He wonders if Wang Yue is about to reach level 60, as she really is a genius. Zhao Cheng takes out a potion, saying it's a gift. This item is an advanced agility potion, which permanently increases agility by 3, surprising his friends since the item is valuable. Zhao Cheng says the price isn't an issue, just a few tens of thousands of crystals, and that he and Yue don't mind, as the crucial point is that this type of advanced potion is hard to obtain, and his father asked several friends and spent a good amount of money to get one. Wang Yue immediately thanks him for the gesture and asks him to take the gift back. He finds this strange and asks if she isn't determined to enter the best university. She turns away, saying she doesn't need it, as they have other matters to attend to, leaving him talking to himself. However, he points a finger at the protagonist, asking if she really wants to waste time with that kind of trash. Immediately, she turns with a sinister look, telling him to be careful with his words. He smiles and asks what will happen if a 1-star isn't trash after all. Bored, Feng wonders why this guy keeps attacking him. Does he have some kind of problem? The cleric tries to defuse the situation, suggesting they leave, but Zhao Cheng shouts for them to leave him alone, saying that guy barely has enough money to buy a bottle of attribute potion. Feng mocks Zhao Cheng, saying that it's just a potion that adds 3 more attributes, so he should stop showing off. This enrages Zhao Cheng, and he asks how Feng dares to speak to him like that. The shield warrior intervenes in the conversation, saying that Zhao Cheng was speaking too loudly and asks if by any chance he has something more powerful. Cheng starts to smile, proposing a bet. If the protagonist proves he has such an item, Zhao Cheng will immediately kneel. However, if he can't prove it, Zhao Cheng will kneel and bang his head on the ground. At that moment, Feng takes out his item, telling Zhao Cheng to get ready, and asks Wang Yue to take it, as it was her gift. Surprised, she asks if it's the Pioneer's emblem, an item with an appearance that permanently increases attributes. She's never seen anything like it, leaving everyone there astonished, wondering how there could be an item that permanently increases attributes by more than 10. They suspect it must be a fraud. Confident, Feng simply says that whether it's a fraud or not, she should try it out and find out. Looking at the item, she hesitates, unsure whether to take it or not, but the protagonist reassures her, telling her not to worry because he found the item at his house and that it was destined to be hers. He shouts for her to use it quickly, since everyone there is eager to see. She uses the item, and an energy begins to envelop her arm, leaving everyone surprised. Please, she says that her attributes have indeed increased, astonishing the cleric. Meanwhile, the shield warrior and Zhao Cheng can't believe it. Cheng suggests that the protagonist probably stole it. Smiling, Feng says he'd better keep his promise. Immediately, Zhao Cheng refuses, but Wang Yue asks if he isn't a man, and if he's going to back out. He looks around, hoping for someone to help him, but everyone is giving him dirty looks. Nervously, he begins to kneel, ending up on his knees before the protagonist. Feng, satisfied with this, tells Wang it's time to leave and says goodbye to everyone, saying they'll see each other around. She tries to apologize, but Feng interrupts her, asking her to stop because their relationship doesn't allow for that kind of thing. Smiling, he says that she really doesn't need to accompany him. He would prefer that she achieve the second transformation first and get into the best university, because with her by his side, he can't train efficiently. Concerned about Feng, she asks him not to get discouraged and hands him a book, saying it's for him. Not quite understanding what it is, he asks if it's a skill book. She replies that it is, and when he reaches the appropriate level, he should learn those skills. Feng asks if all of them are purple quality, and judging by the look of them, if they're all expensive. She responds that they don't come close to the value of the item he gave her. He smiles and closes the book, saying he'll accept it. Now, in the dungeon, sinister cemetery, zombies are emerging from their graves and attacking. But soon, 2 attacks are launched in their direction, hitting each one squarely in the head, scattering their remains everywhere. It was Wang Yue with her bow, making the protagonist happy because she had succeeded once again. But soon, he feels sad, thinking that the experience there is very low. However, he can't tell Wang Yue that he's already at level 10. At that moment, she notices her communicator ringing. She answers, and her friend informs her that she just received a message saying that the great boss, fallen necromancer, is about to appear. She also says that it's a rare opportunity and asks if Wang Yue is going. Zhao Cheng notices that the cleric is talking to Wang Yue and insists that she must go, because how else would they defeat the boss? He also adds that the fallen necromancer might drop rare items for mages, which is very important to him. She tries to downplay it so that Wang Yue doesn't hear those absurdities. Wang Yue thinks for a moment and looks at Feng, who tells her to go ahead, assuring her that everything is fine. After all, they're all in the same dungeon, and she can continue training later. She takes a deep breath and says that it's okay then, but asks Feng to proceed to the safe area and wait for her. He smiles and agrees. Quickly, she heads toward her group. Feng, with a sinister look, says that he's finally alone, and the possibility of that great boss appearing seems to indicate that it's his lucky day. Confident, he affirms that fortunately, he had already prepared for that day and learned 2 new skills. In any case, they can all be used once for free, so it's better to have as many curses as possible. The system notifies him that his passive ability, Mysterious Gift, will allow him to release forbidden spells once a week without any consumption. Feng begins to stretch, saying that with his current level, he only has 3 skill slots, and the skill books Yue gave him can only be used after level 15. In another part of the sinister cemetery, there are several monsters everywhere, and a guild observes from a distance. The tank warrior informs them that the great boss is appearing in the deep tower of the dungeon, and they need to kill everything along the way to get there. He asks them to be very careful, as the difficulty of that dungeon is high, and the monsters inside are very dangerous. As he says this, a huge flame passes right in front of them, leaving them frightened. The guild girl urges them to move quickly, because an adventurer team is already ahead of them. The tank warrior is outraged, asking how that's possible. Surprised, the mage says that it's Wang Yue and Zhao Cheng from the Sovereign Lion Guild. Even at the national level, they are considered new talents, truly deserving of their reputation. On the battlefield, they continue destroying everything. Zhao Cheng yells that the boss is definitely his, and asks if those fools think they can compete with him. Wang Yue, with her bow, keeps obliterating multiple targets at the same time, leaving her guildmates amazed. The cleric asks the berserker if he noticed that Yue had gotten stronger, and he replies that he definitely did, especially since her agility had increased by 10 points. Meanwhile, at the tower of the sinister cemetery, a portal begins to form. It's Feng, laughing, saying that it seems that this ability isn't just a high-level magic prohibition space, but also a teleportation ability. The ability Void Path, Cursed Magic, tears through space to enter the world of darkness, moving quickly to the target location, and lasts for an hour. At that moment, a dark aura begins to form, and the boss of that dungeon, the fallen necromancer, emerges with a sinister black aura. Feng jokes, saying that the necromancer is late. At the same time, the necromancer fires a powerful attack at the protagonist, causing a massive explosion. The dust begins to settle, leaving only the mark of the impact. The fallen necromancer, enraged, yells at the protagonist, "How dare an adventurer without fear? How dare you appear alone?" As he says this, Feng appears from the portal right behind the necromancer, using the Void Path ability. With a piercing gaze, he says that he doesn't want to share the loot with others. Immediately, he uses his other ability, Celestial Firestorm, Cursed Magic, which summons a violent rain of fire from the sky, dealing damage over a wide area. Immediately, a rain of black meteors begins to fall on the fallen necromancer, causing a massive explosion. The dust begins to settle, and Feng emerges from it, satisfied because the system notified him that he had killed several monsters at once, including the fallen necromancer. The victory earned him 50,000 experience points, taking him straight to level 30, which makes him happy because now he can undergo his first transformation. He starts walking to pick up the dropped items, imagining that the loot is truly generous and that he can use the gem and the jewels. Although the skill books Yue gave him aren't exclusive to mages, they are still worth good money. The dropped items are Darkstone, a material type, which grants 20% more magic damage and 20% more life drain. Necromancer's Pendant, which grants 15 more strength, 20 more spirit, 100 more mental resistance, 100 more curse resistance, and immunity to toxins, and can be used 3 times. And finally, and most importantly, the Necromancer's Insignia, a consumable item that reduces 3 permanent life points, but gives 15 more spirit permanently. Feng immediately chooses to use the Necromancer's Insignia, thinking it's acceptable even if it reduces his life. The system notifies him that a special item, the Necromancer's Micro Recorder, has been detected. During the transition, it could unlock the hidden profession Necromancer Sorcerer, or activate the prerequisite mission for the hidden profession God of Universal Magic. This makes him happy, imagining that hidden professions are quite rare and are usually innate, not something that can be prepared for in advance. However, He finds these micro-recorders strange, wondering if they are the key to activating hidden professions. He starts shouting that he will become a god of universal magic, but accidentally uses his celestial firestorm ability again, causing several black meteors to fall. Even in the area where Wang Yue's guild was, the meteors rained down across the entire battlefield, leaving everyone there worried, wondering what the hell was happening and where that power was coming from. Immediately, they are told to stop advancing and to retreat. Zhao Cheng is outraged because he wanted to kill the boss, but Yue shouts, asking if he wants everyone there to die in such a dangerous situation. He starts sweating, thinking this is all a mess. She takes out her phone to notify Feng and sends him a message, telling him to leave because they have other things to deal with first. However, Feng had already left and was arriving at the Jintai Transformation Hall. Once inside, he notices that there aren't many people there. He turns around and realizes there is someone in the room. A woman greets him and asks if he came to take on the transformation mission. He replies that he did. She asks him to wait a moment as she needs to register some information first and begins asking for the protagonist's personal details. As she registers his information, she thinks to herself that he only managed to become a mage at 18. His qualifications are a bit lacking. She gets up and directs the protagonist, indicating that the mage transformation sector is just over there. In the transformation sector, she explains that he can follow the process instructions and informs him that she'll be leaving. If he needs anything, he should call her. He thanks her. As she returns to her desk, she notices someone waiting for her. It's Captain Joe, looking worried. She asks if something happened, and he explains that they just investigated the area and that the sinister cemetery had suffered severe damage. The energy source is still unclear, but they estimate that the threat level might be higher than king level. Intrigued by the situation, she asks if there have been 2 king-level threats in just 2 days. Joe responds that yes, and that's why the higher leadership sent him there. Looking at her, he asks her to call in the Lone Shadow to take immediate action. In the transformation room, the system notifies Feng that there are 2 options to choose from. The first is Necromancer, first transformation mission. Obtain the mission item, Blood King's Rope, by entering the phantasmal realm, Labyrinth of No Illusions. The deadline is 3 days, and the difficulty is Class A. The second option is God of Universal Magic, first transformation mission. Prerequisite: obtain the mission item, Sacred Emblem, by entering the phantasmal realm, Temple of the Resplendent Sun. The deadline is 3 days, but the difficulty is Class S. Feng, intrigued, asks why there are 2 options, and also notices that God of Universal Magic is just a preliminary mission. Even so, he decides to accept it, receiving a system notification saying that the successful completion of the transformation mission is verifying the corresponding information again. After choosing his mission, he decides to leave. As Feng descends the stairs, he reflects that it really is a hidden class. Even Class S missions are available, and luckily the deadline is 3 days. Feng says goodbye to the girl, saying goodbye, but finds it strange because she wasn't the same woman who attended to him a short while ago. Back at the Tower of the Sinister Cemetery, someone is analyzing all that dark energy, while a man is surprised, saying that it's the first time he's seen someone from the Lone Shadow, and that even their attire is different. Captain Joe asks him to keep quiet because the existence of that organization is secret. He begins to explain that the members of the Lone Shadow have a military hidden class that allows them to use dark power to fight, especially designated for special missions. This person is Jing, the same one who led the protagonist to choose the transformation mission, but she starts to feel something strange, saying that the dark power is powerful. Even though it has dissipated significantly, it still affects her. Jing explains to the two that they didn't find any clues. In fact, it seems the person responsible disappears after causing damage, making it impossible to deduce their objectives. Concerned about the situation, Captain Joe says that there have been frequent reports of anomalies in some secret areas recently, which could be a sign of some crisis. He asks if there could be any connection with this issue. She responds that it's hard to say, but she would consult the superiors and request reinforcements. Joe asks if the county is concerned, considering they were going to send the famous Lone Hurricane from the Lone Shadow. The guy with glasses approaches and asks if she can confirm whether the cause of the damage is a monster, and if there's a possibility it could be a... Jing interrupts him, wanting to know if he was suggesting that the cause of the damage could be someone like her, a mutant. Quickly, he apologizes, saying that wasn't what he meant. She explains that the hostility levels there have already surpassed the king level. Trying to control such a massive dark power is something the human body simply couldn't withstand. Worried, he lowers his head and asks if there's an abnormally powerful monster hiding in Chenglai, capable of causing a catastrophe at any moment. Jing responds affirmatively, saying it seems to be hiding in the shadows, and they need to find it as soon as possible. Meanwhile, at Feng's house, he's in his room, saying that the darkness is strangely comforting. He sits down, imagining that he's reached level 30 and gained 4 more skill slots, and that he will start by learning the 2 books Wang Yue gave him. A system message arrives, notifying him that the possible fusion detection of the skill's Arcane Shield with the curse Impure Shell was automatically executed, and that the passive skill Guardian of Impurity has been learned. He places his hand on the system panel to view the learned skill information, and the system informs him that the passive skill, Guardian of Impurity, automatically activates when attacked, absorbing 100% of the damage emitted by the impure shell, with a limit equivalent to the damage caused by the impure shell. The impure shell will gradually regenerate after the attack ends. Feng is pleased to know that curses can fuse with low-level spells to create new effects, giving him another form of defense. Normal damage is ineffective against him. He begins to wonder what the other book does. The system informs him that there's a detection of the skill Falling Meteor, with a possible fusion with the curse Impure Shell and Celestial Fire Rain, automatically executed. The passive skill Master of the Elements, Earth, has been learned, increasing the effects of all Earth spells by 20%. Looking at his skills in the system, he imagines that he still has 4 skill slots, so he decides to buy more books at the Yuan Cheng trade market. Day breaks, and the protagonist decides to head to the trade market. He enters and passes by a receptionist who notices him, thinking he's the same guy from before. She stops and greets him, but he says he's looking for Miss Yang Xin. She starts to flirt, saying that Xin is busy with another client and that today she would be the one to assist him. Feng says it's not necessary, as he'll look around by himself. This makes her furious, asking if the protagonist isn't a man and how he dares to refuse her offer. She runs after him, saying not to worry, that it's part of her job. At that moment, someone comes running, calling out the protagonist's name. It was Xin. Feng asks if she had finished her work. Tired and out of breath, she explains that she wasn't busy, just eating something, and a colleague informed her that he was there, so she came running. Feng apologizes for interrupting her meal and says he'll invite her to dinner later as compensation. Embarrassed, she says, how could she accept such an offer? The other receptionist just watches the conversation, furious at being sidelined. In Wang's office, he places the 2 books on the table, saying that he'd like to request that they sell them to him, and he'd also like to buy some mage skills. He says there's no problem at all and asks Miss Xin to accompany him. Wang is intrigued by the protagonist because last time he took an orange weapon and this time they're purple skill books. He starts to take an interest in his background, thinking it would be best to send someone to investigate. Night falls, and they are dining, having a great time. Feng raises his hand and shouts for the bill, but she says she already paid, leaving him embarrassed. Asking if they hadn't agreed that the protagonist would pay, she smiles and says no, and that she has a reason for inviting him, so there's no need to worry. They stand up, and he, not understanding anything, asks what the reason could be. She laughs and says it's a secret. Feng says he owes her a dinner. Xin tells him not to worry about it, and that they'll talk later, as she needs to head somewhere else and will take a taxi. He responds that it's fine, and wishes her a safe trip. Inside the car, the taxi driver asks where she's going, and she replies that it's to Municipal Hospital Number 2. She begins to imagine her father in the hospital and thanks the protagonist, as she earned a good commission. Smiling, she imagines that she'll finally be able to pay for her father's medical expenses that month, which makes her really happy. However, at that moment, something happens. The taxi driver crashes into something, and a claw pierces him, spraying blood everywhere, leaving Shin horrified by the scene. At that instant, a portal appeared in the sky, and several monsters began to pass through it. Immediately, she opens the car door and jumps out, falling hard to the ground, not realizing there was a monster on top of the car. Surprised by the event, she asks what is happening and why monsters appeared in the safe zone, but soon she notices there's a monster right behind her. From the portal, someone else emerges, emanating an incredible energy and giving a sinister smile. An explosion occurs, making the monster furious. It was Shin, disappointed with her attack, as that monster was clearly stronger, and she was just a level 1 mage with a 1-star attribute. Without wasting time, the monster charges at her, ready to kill her, but Joe arrives at the last minute and decapitates the monster's head. He asks how she is, and tells her that if she can move, she should find a place to hide. She replies that she's fine, and will immediately look for a safe place. Joe observes the surroundings and asks if everything there is corrupted, explaining that the secret realm has begun to merge with reality, and he had never seen such severe decay before. Looking at the monster's head, he imagines that these creatures aren't something a common person with only 1 star can face. Remembering what the guy with glasses said about there being an incredibly powerful creature hidden in that domain that could bring destruction at any moment, he starts to consider that this might be possible. However, he notices a huge hand coming toward him and dodges at the last minute. Joe finds the attack strange, wondering if it was a mutant. Then a sinister figure introduces himself, saying that he's not that kind of trash, but rather a guardian of darkness called the Spring Observer. Hearing this intrigues him, as he's never heard of the Spring Observer, but he figures it's best to leave that aside for now, since there are more pressing matters. Immediately, he charges at the Observer, striking with his sword, but the Observer counters with a powerful punch, sending Captain Joe flying. He starts to think this is really bad, as he realizes that the Observer has at least the power of the 3rd level. The Observer places his finger on the ground, and dark energy begins to overflow, declaring that this is his territory. With a sinister expression, he says that someone as weak as Joe would never be worthy of being his opponent, and he approaches Joe, landing a full-force blow, causing blood to splatter everywhere. With the impact, Joe is thrown far away. The Observer, laughing, shouts that he has indeed become stronger, and that stepping on this land feels like a continuous flow of power emerging. However, he hears a voice coming from his amulet, saying that he is an insignificant human and should not get caught up in his own vanity. Quickly, he apologizes. A dimensional rift appears above him, emitting a voice that says weakness is his power, and that if it were present, he would be nothing more than crawling trash on the ground, just like all his companions. Hearing this paralyzes him, leaving him in shock. Something begins to emerge from the dimensional rift, gradually taking shape until a sinister entity emerges from it, making the Observer kneel, trembling, as he hears the entity say that he must prove that he still has some value. She orders him to use the people of that city as sacrifices for her dominion in that world. Trembling, he says he understands. At that moment, someone pulls back a curtain. It was Feng, who is surprised to witness something in front of him. He looks around and sees that a battle took place there, notices a monster in front of him, and imagines that he only went to the bathroom, and all of this happened. The monster turns, noticing the protagonist's presence, and leaps toward him. Some cracks begin to appear in the ground. Feng uses his new magic, Stone Thorn Walls, which hits the monster squarely. He explains that fortunately, he paid a lot of money for that weapon, with an additional purple skill, allowing him to take advantage of his type of magic. He opens the door, noticing that the Observer was carrying Captain Joe, and that the entire scene was corrupted. With a sinister look, the observer drops Joe to the ground, bleeding, telling him to wait, as there's still a little worm that escaped. The observer jumps and goes all out toward the protagonist, who wonders what that thing is. He grabs him, but notices something strange. Looking at Feng, he realizes that the protagonist is enveloped in dark magic and finds it very strange. How did he manage to block his attack? The entity that possessed him begins to be fascinated by that powerful black shadow power. And, looking at the protagonist, it notices that his power is far beyond the ordinary and feels drawn to him, because his aura is more terrifying than death itself. Feng imagines that this guy seems strong and wonders if by chance he would use some forbidden curse in the city. He opens his eyes, releasing the energy he was concentrating, completely shattering the shell that enveloped the observer's arm. Immediately, the entity releases its mental control over the observer, causing him to scream for it to return. However, the entity simply says that the user he's calling is out of service and that he should handle it himself. The entity starts to return to the portal. Several creatures awaited it at the portal as they were closing the doors until, finally, they close. The observer says that his strength and power are fading away. Feng notices this with a sinister look and begins to imagine that the mutants are those who, during the awakening process, acquired the hidden shadow class. They are capable of using the power of darkness, possessing much greater strength than normal classes of the same level. However, at the same time, once they lose the protection of the power of darkness, they go insane. Seeing that the observer was about to start losing his mind, Feng uses his Stone Thorn ability, finishing him off completely, and comments that they are really difficult to deal with. Tired, he takes a deep breath, imagining that, luckily, he was able to focus entirely on his attack without worrying about defense. Worried, he thinks he needs to pick up the items that fell on the ground first, before anyone notices, and then get back home as quickly as possible. In another part of the city, Jing and an assistant are walking through the chaotic scene. The assistant says that the monsters have retreated and that the field distortion has also disappeared. Jing becomes thoughtful as two destruction spells, distortions invading reality, always appearing suddenly and disappearing in the same way. What could the enemies be planning? Jing asks her assistant about the other locations. She replies that overall, they are safe, except for the squad to the south of the city, which suffered heavy casualties, and that their situation is still unknown. Jing remembers that the area to the south of the city is under Captain Zhou's responsibility and decides to go there to check it out. On site, Du-an is observing the body of the observer that the protagonist killed. Intrigued by it, he imagines that the observer lost everything he was carrying. Jing arrives at the scene, shouting for everyone to stay still, and asks who they are. Duna shows his identification, telling them not to worry, as he is a member of the Illusion Beyond the Clouds. She asks if Illusion Beyond the Clouds is that unofficial organization composed entirely of fighters. He responds, "That's exactly right." Jing mentions that she heard they usually operate in secret, so why would they be there? He turns around, saying it's because of him, pointing to the body trapped by the stone thorns, explaining that the body used to be his companion. However, he betrayed the organization and helped invade reality through the distortion, directing monsters to attack the camp. Except for a few, everyone was killed. Jing, intrigued, asks if the invasion stopped because of his death. Duna points to his former partner and asks if they killed him, but she replies that no, and worse, they don't know who did. He explains that the entity likes to hide in the distortion because it's very cunning. He has searched for it many times, but it always escapes. Jing informs him that Captain Zhou has the power equivalent to 3 transformations, and even so, he was completely defeated. Both, intrigued by the situation, start to consider that there might be someone that powerful in Sucheng. When Jing sees Du-an leaving, she asks where he's going. He replies that he's going to look for something. At Feng's house, he's very happy because the things the observer left behind include 2 sets of orange armor from the fighter class. The first item is the Yang Wei Eternal Radiance chestplate, which requires level 120 to use. The second is the Yangwei Eternal Radiance Pants, which also require level 120 to use. Feng wonders that he didn't see the observer using these items, so probably he didn't have the necessary level, because if he did, the protagonist could only have defeated him using forbidden techniques. He picks up the pendant left behind and finds it strange because it has no specified quality, and the information is marked as unknown. Intrigued, he starts fiddling with the pendant, wondering if some ancient god is hidden inside. However, through the pendant, someone was watching him from elsewhere. It was the distortion entity, saying that luckily it reacted quickly and closed the distortion in time, hoping it wasn't discovered. The entity watches Feng looking at the pendant, worried if someone is inside, which scares it. It screams to cut all connections to avoid revealing its location, leaving everyone there in fear. The entity begins to sweat coldly, saying it almost had a heart attack, and wonders how the protagonist managed to detect it. The next day, at the city hospital, Captain Joe explains to Jing that it was that young fighter who saved them. He begins to recall what happened, saying that as soon as the enemy saw him, it immediately opened a rift in the distortion and fled. Jing comments that she can vaguely feel that his ability isn't below hers. The guy with glasses finds it strange because even with that guy being so strong, he couldn't capture him. She says apparently that's true. Intrigued, she thinks that maybe he's just passing through, maybe hiding. In any case, the great mystery is certainly recorded, beyond the conventional magic marks from last night, and that they didn't find anything special on the battlefield. Joe says that if the great mystery was living there, he would feel much safer just imagining it. The guy with glasses says he has a somewhat exaggerated idea to share. Jing, thoughtful, asks what it might be. He asks if, in last night's battle, there were traces of the power of darkness. She responds that yes, because some ancient distortion monsters were present. He begins to speculate, saying it's a crazy idea, and asks, what if, by chance, the great mystery is also a mutant? Because both destruction spells cause casualties on both sides. Before he can finish his explanation, Joe interrupts him, saying that's impossible and that he's overthinking it. Jing is left pondering all of this, considering if it could be possible. At that moment, the protagonist arrives to complete his mission, introducing himself and asking if it would be possible to do the class change mission there. Feng enters the place to carry out his mission and, looking around, starts questioning if that place is really the Temple of Solar Radiance. However, someone is watching him from afar. It was Du-An, but earlier at the trade market, Du-An had gone there, being introduced by the receptionist. Wang greets him, saying he heard that he was interested in buying a 4 transformations fighter armor set and asks if that's correct. The woman merely imagines that this guy is very handsome and has the level, so if she could stay by his side, she wouldn't have to worry about the future. Wang, smiling, says that coincidentally, they have an old client who just called, preparing to sell a 4-star fighter armor set. However, he only has 2 pieces at the moment, a chest plate and pants. Du-An becomes serious and asks where that person is. Wang explains that, unfortunately, this person won't be able to come in right now. Du-An begins to think that all this equipment and information corresponds to what he's been looking for. Although it hasn't been confirmed yet, it's highly likely to be the master's legacy. He asks Wang if he could tell him where this old client is, and says he would pay for that information. Wang doesn't know what to respond, worried about the situation he's in, and starts to imagine that it's a huge coincidence since the protagonist just said he's preparing to sell the set, and now this gentleman shows up asking for information, as if they're in cahoots. Wang explains that he remembers the protagonist saying he was going to the neighboring city to resolve some things, but that he'll call to confirm. Wang returns and realizes that Du-An had left and asks the receptionist if he really left. She responds that yes, she even escorted him to the door. Seeing Wang's concern, she asks if something is wrong. He replies that earlier, he did some research on the protagonist's background. His parents were from a common 2-star class but disappeared in an accident when he was young. Since then, he's been alone, studying at City School 7, and only awakened at 18, still being of a common 1-star class. Hearing that explanation surprises her, as she thought he was more impressive, but it seems like he's just an ordinary guy. Wang explains that he always found him suspicious, with a poor appearance, and now he's going to be exposed. She asks where he got the items he was selling in the shop, imagining that a 1-star class wouldn't be able to get such good things. Wang says that's the problem. Although he's friends with the daughter of the Wang group, the group didn't help him much. Thoughtful, she begins to remember Du An, who had a serious expression, and asks if Feng could have stolen that set. Sweating coldly, Wang says it probably wasn't stolen, but very likely wasn't obtained legitimately either. However, this time, it seems he's bothered the wrong person. She begins to imagine Du An beating up the protagonist, as a 4-star level person is high level, even in Beishan province. Returning to the present, Du An continues observing the protagonist. Looking at him, he's impressed that someone so young was able to repel a distortion invasion. After all, even masters like his were defeated by distortion bosses. But according to the information, the master's set might be in the protagonist's hands, and if it's not him, it must be someone behind him. Either way, it's better to be cautious. Finally, Feng arrives at the Temple of Solar Radiance, observing everything that's happening there. Du An, watching the protagonist use his power, imagines that he's starting to change his clothes, and depending on the clothes, he might get a rough idea of his power. Feng finishes changing his clothes. Du An becomes indignant, thinking that it was just ordinary clothes, looking more like those of a newly graduated student, and wonders if it could be a disguise. He imagines that, considering the protagonist's age, the novice disguise wouldn't attract much attention, as it would be easy to blend into the crowd. If the protagonist is trying to hide, he might escape, but to avoid alerting him, Du An decides not to follow too closely. As a precaution, he decides to mark him with a mental tracking ability, which allows him to mark the target in his consciousness without being detected. Looking at Feng, Du An decides to use his usual appearance. Observing the surroundings and seeing where the protagonist was going, Du An thinks that the monsters there aren't that strong and wonders what Feng is doing there. Upon entering the castle, something catches Feng's attention. A monster was about to attack him, and without wasting time, it launches an energy blast toward the protagonist. However, due to his passive ability, Feng defends himself automatically without taking his hand out of his pocket, leaving Du An surprised by that. Indignant, Du An wonders what ability that is, and if by chance, it's an absolute defense that can't be broken at all. He notices that the monsters were avoiding Feng as he walked normally, and wonders if that guy is even normal. Feng stops in front of a huge statue, leaving Du An intrigued, wondering if he will face the boss alone. However, the protagonist finds it all too much, as no one is around. The statue begins to sweat nervously in front of Feng. Du An, indignant, wonders why the statue wasn't moving. The protagonist decides to walk around it, thinking that the statue wasn't the mission guide. He stops in front of a large hall, saying that was probably the place. However, the mission boss appears, flying in front of the protagonist. Feng watches him, but the 6-winged seraphim uses one of his abilities to observe Feng and immediately flies away. Feng watches the boss fly off, wondering what had happened. Du An, in shock, wonders if that could be the hidden boss, and how he knew. At that moment, the system notifies that the mission Almighty Magic of the First Class Change was to enter the Temple of Solar Light and obtain the mission item Sacred Emblem and defeat the temple's hidden boss, the 6-winged seraphim. Feng reflects on the system's notification, but quickly changes his expression, saying that, being an S-level mission, who could handle that during their first-class change? However, the hidden boss, flying away in fear of the protagonist, says that the situation is terrible because he's in his own domain and still has to flee. The atmosphere is tense, with lightning and thunder all across the sky. The boss continues to flee at full speed from Feng, but without wasting time, Feng raises his hand, using his lightning strike ability, summoning a sinister giant eye in the sky and calling forth a gigantic lightning storm, unleashing a celestial calamity. the lightning strikes down toward the six-winged seraphim, obliterating him instantly before he even has time to react. Due to the immense destructive power of the attack, not only was the boss eliminated, but a large part of the temple was destroyed as well. Dwan can't believe what he just witnessed. Observing the surroundings, he says he's never seen such a destructive spell before, and that the strength of this guy is definitely beyond that of his master. He wonders if Feng could be one of the 8 legendary transformed ones. Amidst the dust, Feng is frustrated, thinking that until he completes his first transformation, he won't be able to level up, as he's losing a lot of experience. Looking at his hand, he says that at least he got the emblem and can return to complete the mission. The item in his hand is the Sacred Emblem, a consumable of legendary quality, granting a permanent increase of 8 spirit attribute points and a permanent 100% bonus to recovery effects. Feng grabs his scroll to teleport back, but Dwan comes running toward him, asking him to wait a moment. Feng turns around, feeling concerned, wondering if the guy had seen something. Dwan immediately stops, frightened, wondering why the protagonist looks so serious. Fearing what Feng might do, he asks him not to get angry, as he will explain everything. However, at that exact moment, they hear an alarm, both becoming concerned about what it could be. Feng raises his arm, asking them to leave first, saying they can talk more outside. Dwan agrees with him. Once outside, the protagonist asks if Dwan had been following him the whole time. Dwan apologizes, saying he had no other intentions and only wanted to confirm something, adding that Feng seems very young as he doesn't fully trust his vision. Dwan begins to explain that although his master was strong, he sacrificed his own life to temporarily seal the distortion, but unfortunately, the traitor escaped. Over the years, the traitor has been using humans as sacrifices, trying to undo the seal. Dwan had chased him for a long time, but without success. Feng reflects on that individual, realizing that he was in the 4th transformation, and if it weren't for him showing up on his own, Feng would never have noticed him. But in the end, his level is still too low, and if things continue like this, it's only a matter of time before he's discovered. Looking at the protagonist's sinister expression, Dwan begins to sweat nervously, wondering if Feng had suddenly gone silent to kill him later. Dwan thanks Feng for avenging his master and makes it clear that he is grateful for it, and that if Feng ever needs anything in the future, he should just call him. However, the protagonist remains intrigued, thinking that this guy is not weak and, on top of that, is a loner, and if he can build a good relationship with him, it might be useful in the future. Feng asks him not to tell anyone what happened during the mission, as he prefers to keep it a secret. Dwan assures him not to worry, as he will keep that secret. However, he wonders about the mysterious figure's incredible darkness magic, which didn't harm innocents. In addition, he repelled the invasion of the restricted territory and saved the entire city. And a person so strong and discreet, whatever the reason, deserved his respect. Watching the protagonist, he imagines he will have to stay a little longer in the city of Sucheng. At that moment, Feng's phone rings. He answers, and it's Professor Qi. She asks where he is. Feng replies that he's out of town but about to return, asking if she needs anything. She says there are a few things she wants to ask him when he gets back and that they can talk later. Feng is puzzled as to why she called so suddenly. Jing doesn't understand why the professor hung up so quickly. However, Qi Wei explains that judging by his tone, everything seemed fine, and he was already on his way back. She explains that a student who had awakened a few days ago suddenly reached the 1st transformation, and if it weren't for the coincidence of her investigating, he might have gone unnoticed. The professor says that the protagonist is a good person, as he studies a lot, and that she trusts he's not a bad guy, but Jing explains that she wasn't saying he's bad. However, a few things need to be clarified. She becomes serious, remembering the meeting she had, where the superiors were gathered, and one of them said that, based on preliminary information, they would continue investigating and hope to attract the attention of higher-ups. The old man, with a serious expression, asks if there's anything else to report. Ning remains silent for a few moments, but decides to ask if they think the 2 destruction spells in the city of Sucheng were caused by mutants. This leaves everyone deep in thought, and the old man replies that she herself is a mutant, so why is she asking that? He explains that mutants use the power of darkness, but must bear a corresponding price. The stronger the mutant, the greater the price they must pay, and they can lose their lives, sanity, or even transform into monsters. Even though it's a common price, if they're careless, mutants can meet a terrible fate, and a mutant equivalent to a king would be impossible. The guy with spiked hair says she's losing her mind, because a king-level mutant, only she could come up with such madness. And, mocking her, he asks if she likes telling stories. If so, she could write one. Jing makes it clear that she's just considering all possibilities. Whether he wants to listen or not is his problem. He smiles, saying that's fine, but he also makes it clear that his team is clearly a bunch of incompetents since they can't discover anything, and that if there really were a king-level mutant, he'd cut off his own head and let her use it as a ball. The old man gives a slight cough to get everyone's attention, saying that they sent an investigation team to the city of Sucheng, hoping they will actively cooperate, and if necessary, the investigation team will assist in all tasks. He also makes it clear that the request for reinforcements from the Lone Shadow was not approved. She becomes furious, asking if they don't trust her, but he quickly responds that it's not a matter of trust, asking her to be more patient. Jing stretches, remembering the meeting she had. However, her assistant bursts through the door, saying she has urgent news. She starts explaining that the Temple of Solar Light in Longbofu had been hit by destruction spells, and there were reports of injuries. Chi Wei, worried, says that Feng was checking the area, and the registered training location seemed to be. However, Jing interrupts her, saying that the place was precisely the Temple of Solar Light. Smiling, she says things are getting interesting. In the city of Longbofu, a shield was active over the city. Many people were concerned about some events, asking if the shield was functioning properly and if they had heard what had happened at the Temple of Solar Light. A guard tells them not to worry, as the shield was at a superior level at that moment and would isolate the power of darkness from the outside, not affecting the city area. Feng grows worried because the commotion he had caused ended up drawing too much attention, directly triggering a high alert. He hopes the alert will be deactivated so he can drive home. However, a black fissure appears above the shield, revealing a demonic face. Shortly after, several demonic monsters come out of the rift, and one of them asks if this is the human world. Looking at the shield, it wonders why they activated it. Another monster says he doesn't care because humans are fragile and always like to hide inside their shells. With that, a horde of monsters emerges from the rift, with the horned one saying it's a shame because the divine artifact can no longer stop them. He points his finger, ordering everyone to give them a surprise. As he says this, the monsters immediately begin to move. People are confused as the barrier starts to break, and several monsters are passing through it. The guard, looking up, doesn't understand what's happening. Another soldier, sweating profusely, asks how the monsters managed to break the shield. Quickly, the crowd starts to panic, pushing each other. Duan swiftly prepares for battle. Surprising Feng, he tells the protagonist that this could be another high-level invasion of the kingdom. Feng, shocked upon hearing this, asks if it was similar to what happened last night in the city of Sucheng. Duan asks if they should intervene. He asks the protagonist if he has a solution. Duan ponders the protagonist's question, thinking that he could easily handle the situation, so why was he asking for solutions? However, he assumes that the protagonist might be testing him. He asks Feng to stay calm because he will take care of everything. Feng considers that there are many people around, and it would be better not to get involved. He asks Duan to handle the situation. They observe the chaos, with people running and screaming for help. The horned demon lands on the ground, letting out a malicious laugh. However, one of the soldiers shoots several arrows at the monster, shouting for it to die quickly. The monster simply deflects the arrows as if they were nothing. Soon after, another warrior jumps onto its back, but the demonic monster counters, slashing him and throwing him far away. One of the soldiers becomes desolate, wondering how that was possible since they couldn't even scratch it. The monster starts walking, saying he's disappointed because he thought there would be someone strong among the humans. He says this as he approaches the people, who freak out as he gets closer, begging for help. He stops in front of a poor little girl, preparing to kill her, attacking her, and saying that everyone there is truly useless. However, his attack is blocked. It was Dwan with his dagger, leaving the monster confused and giving the girl time to run away. The demon becomes furious because someone was interfering with his killing. With a sinister look, Dwan makes it clear to Feng not to worry, as he would take care of the problem. The demon begins to laugh, saying that everyone is useless. He says this, but immediately receives an attack from Dwan, which throws him far away. The demon is shocked by the attack, as it managed to wound him, but soon he is terrified as he sees Dwan leaping toward him, eyes filled with bloodlust. Dwan unleashes countless blows on the demon, leaving him no time to do anything. People, upon seeing Dwan in action, are amazed, saying that guy is incredibly strong, and judging by his abilities, it's likely that he's at a high level, possibly from a 5-star hidden class. Dwan walked calmly as the demon exploded behind him. At that moment, Dwan was at level 137, and his class was a mystical warrior, a 5-star hidden class. Feng, in his thoughts, is also amazed, thinking that Dwan was incredible and seemed to have something special about him. After Dwan finished off the monster leader, the remaining creatures began returning to the rift, while the soldiers shouted for everyone to seize the moment and counterattack immediately. Dwan approaches Feng, asking if there was anything else he could do. The protagonist, smiling, gives him a thumbs up, saying everything is fine and complimenting him on the excellent work. The people watching from afar comment that Dwan is a formidable fighter, noting that the protagonist was showing respect to him. They wonder if he might be the son of some great family, as he was accompanied by a bodyguard. Dwan extends his hand, offering the items dropped during the battle with the boss. Feng is pleased because they are of legendary quality, and even if he can't use them himself, selling them would easily bring in tens of thousands of crystals on the market. People start shouting, asking if they needed anything, saying they could help with anything. Feng imagines that the agility skill book False Entry would be perfect for Wang Yu, and the black shield would be good to sell later. A priest and a warrior approach the protagonist and Dwan, asking if they could have a moment of their time. Someone begins to thank them for saving the city of Longbaofu. He introduces himself, saying his name is Mu Dongming, the mayor of Longbaofu, and, finding it odd that they seem lost, asks if by any chance they aren't from around there. Feng sighs, saying that their intention was just to conduct some business, but they didn't expect to be stuck there, unable to leave temporarily, and, with an intense look, he asks if the mayor has any idea why they're stuck. The mayor starts to sweat nervously under the pressure Feng is giving off, asking if it was because of the alert. He immediately bows, apologizing, blaming the department for the mistake and for causing them trouble. Feng tries to explain, asking the mayor not to worry, as it had nothing to do with them, and in fact, it was his own fault. Dongming turns and asks for someone to bring the flight scroll he had just bought, saying he would give it to them as compensation for the inconvenience. Feng is surprised by this, as the flight scroll is a great item, being hard to come by, especially in a small city like Longbaofu, and, even though it can only be used once, it provides quick and convenient long-distance travel. The mayor takes the opportunity to say he has a rather embarrassing request. Things haven't been very peaceful there in the last few days, and he asks if they could stay in Longbaofu a little longer, since, as they've noticed, the city's defense is weak. The mayor places a hand on his head, saying he regrets it, but he is out of time and won't be able to grant the request. However, he imagines that the class change mission has a 3-day limit. If they delay there, they won't be able to complete the first change ever again. But, looking at the protagonist, he imagines the crushing look in his eyes and says, it's fine, that they'll leave it for another time. One of the mayor's bodyguards returns, saying that the scroll is ready. Dongming informs Feng that this is the supreme black card of the Yuan Cheng Trading Guild, just a small token of gratitude and respect. Feng, looking at the card, is amazed, thinking that he had heard the supreme black card from the Yuan Cheng Trading Guild is issued only to a very limited number of influential individuals who have many privileges. It's no wonder the mayor could buy the flight scroll, as his position must be quite significant. Duan accepts the gift, and Feng expresses his thanks. The mayor, feeling embarrassed, hopes they accept the gift. If not, he'd worry about being at fault. He emphasizes that if the city of Longbafu is ever in danger, they can ask for their help. The protagonist responds that yes, it's no problem, as long as he has time. Everyone is happy, celebrating, as the city of Longbafu would be safe. Immediately, they use the scroll and fly away, pleased because the scroll was truly effective. Meanwhile, in the class change room in the city of Qinyu, Wang Yue's guildmates are happy, as she and Zhao Cheng were leaving. However, as Yue steps out, she notices something. She sees two trails pass by her. Yue is thoughtful about this, but Zhao approaches, asking what happened. Intrigued, she replies that she just saw two people flying, and she thinks one of them could have been Feng. He starts laughing, saying she must be mistaken, as a flight scroll costs thousands of crystals. How could someone like him afford that? Besides, what would he be doing there, since he had just awakened? Quickly, she turns around with a piercing look, warning him that if he talks badly about Feng again, he'll regret it. Zhao is shocked, wondering what's wrong with him compared to the protagonist. The rest of the group gathers, with the cleric asking them not to worry about those things. She also asks how the second change mission was going. Zhao responds that unfortunately, his was level A, as he couldn't get a level S mission. The berserker says that a level A mission is already very good, as only the lucky ones get a level S. The warrior, flattering Zhao, says that completing the second transformation at 18 already makes him a supernova, coveted by the top universities, and a level A mission is a rare opportunity. The cleric, happy, asks Wang Yue how her mission is going. However, she keeps her head down, not saying a word, leaving everyone worried about her. The berserker comments that Yue looks a bit off, asking if she had gotten a level C mission or lower. Zhao imagines that even the prodigy girl, so highly praised, has her bad days, as a low-level class change mission greatly affects attribute bonuses and skill unlocks. However, he beats his chest, asking her not to be sad because she can overcome all of it in the future, and if she can't, he will still be there to help. He says this, but in his thoughts, he imagines that falling behind with a level C task is a big setback. She approaches Zhao with a serious expression, asking if he wasn't upset about getting a level A mission, so why should she be sad for getting a level S? Hearing that leaves everyone impressed. The cleric asks why she didn't mention it before. Yue responds that her situation is different from the others because her mission unlocks a hidden class she had never seen before. Zhao is shocked, wondering how that could be possible, as classes are usually determined upon awakening. He's never even heard of unlocking a hidden class during a class change, thinking Yue must be mistaken. She starts remembering when she was at the class change field. The system notified her that class progression had detected that the player possessed the key item Vanguard emblem, which could advance the initial class Agile Shooter to Shadow of the Vanguard, and the class change mission would also change. In other words, the current class Agile Shooter advanced to the higher class Shadow of the Vanguard, asking if she wanted to advance or cancel. Intrigued, she wonders why that screen appeared and what it all meant. She's surprised to recall that the Vanguard emblem was a gift from Feng, as the item's effect was astonishing. Thinking back, she remembers how confident he was at that time, wondering if perhaps he knew about the power of that item. She immediately accepted the mission and thanked him for the gift. After explaining to her group what had happened during her mission selection, the cleric is outraged that she was so hasty. Zhao starts shouting, asking what Shadow of the Vanguard is, as he's never heard of it, and suggesting that perhaps the class change system was malfunctioning, and if she made the wrong choice, It could ruin her entire life. You had just asked them not to worry about her. The berserker says he's jealous, wondering how someone can have a 5-star hidden profession and still advance. The cleric mentions that she wishes she had a childhood friend like Feng. Zhao, hearing all of this, becomes furious, thinking that he also needs to send someone to find the emblem, and that, no matter the cost or danger, he must obtain it. At that moment, Feng grabs his sacred emblem, which permanently grants him an additional 5 life attribute points and 5 spirit attribute points, and it begins to shine intensely. Moving toward Feng's chest, the emblem completes its S-level mission. The system begins the class change. He starts to laugh, saying that not only did his attributes increase significantly, but new passive abilities were also added, and he wonders how far he can push his precise manipulation of forbidden spells. The system notifies him that he has acquired the passive ability, Domain of Darkness. His control over the power of darkness has greatly increased, allowing him to manipulate forbidden spells with precision. Outside, Duan is still waiting for the Proto when a person appears. It was Jing, intrigued by Duan, wondering why he would be with Feng, as it seemed like he was guarding Feng's entrance. Looking at him, she thinks that, according to the investigation reports, he was young, but already possessed the power of the 4th change, and even on a national scale, he would be considered one of the strongest. However, according to the team, when they entered, the fighter was always behind Feng, maintaining a respectful posture. Jing tells Qi Wei that her student wasn't easy to deal with, leaving her surprised. As she sees them coming toward her, she says to the teacher that she'll leave the situation in her hands. Qi Wei reassures her, saying she will confirm with Feng, as she believes he won't be an enemy. Feng and Duan continue walking, chatting casually, until they hear the teacher call him, making him turn immediately. Noticing teacher Qi Wei, he asks if, by any chance, she had said she wanted to discuss something. She responds affirmatively, saying there are some things she'd like to discuss with him. Duan says he'll wait, addressing him as Sir, which embarrasses the Proto, as the teacher didn't understand this Sir. Feng tries to play it off, asking her not to mind that, saying Duan was just joking. With a serious expression, she asks Feng if, by any chance, he has already completed the 1st change. He is shocked by the question, remaining silent, unsure of how to respond. He thinks that, although he didn't expect to hide his power for long, it was discovered very quickly, since the teacher has always been very attentive to him, one of the few people he can trust. He thinks she won't harm him. Smiling, he replies that yes, and that explaining it would be complicated, so he preferred only a few people to know. She says there is still one rather strange issue she needs to confirm, asking if he has been affected by the power of darkness. Surprised by the question, he wants to know why she would ask that, thinking it couldn't be about the exposure of his status in the system. Qi Wei explains that he knows the world is undergoing strange changes, and that, moreover, the invasion of the secret world into reality is intensifying. Many people have been affected by the power of darkness and are turning into new Tentu mutants. Feng smiles, saying he understands, and asks her not to worry, as he is not a mutant, but he starts thinking that the mutants are closely monitored by the government, and he doesn't want to get involved with them in any way. She reveals an artifact, asking him to test it with her, requesting that Feng inject his energy into that crystal, as it will show the amount of power of darkness he has inside. The Proto is reluctant about the request. The teacher, looking at him, begins to imagine that Feng is hesitant about the request, making her suspicious. However, he laughs, saying it's the first time he's been in a situation like that, so he's a bit nervous. He says this and touches the crystal, injecting a bit of his energy, causing the crystal to explode into several pieces. Panicking over what had just happened, Qi Wei is outraged, questioning how the crystal could have broken. Feng asks the teacher what was happening. She starts trembling as she recalls the conversation she had with Jing, where Jing explained that it was a black crystal, highly sensitive to the power of darkness, as it is frequently used by the government to detect mutants. When there is power of darkness, the crystal starts to vibrate, and the stronger the vibrations, the greater the amount of power of darkness. Looking at the shattered crystal in her hand, she wonders what it means for it to explode like that. Feng begins to explain that he knows it's quite incredible for someone to awaken and change class immediately after, making things strange for him. But he comments that she's known him for a long time, asking her to at least believe in his character. Intrigued, she thinks about how that child lost his parents when he was still young, and also awakened later than others. And to maintain such an optimistic and positive mindset is already something quite rare. She explains that personally, she trusts him, but for protocol reasons, she will have to report what happened to the superiors, asking him to understand. Feng responds that he understands, but at the same time, he imagines that, although she says that, he doesn't know what the authorities' reaction will be. Under these unexpected circumstances, he can only leave the city of Qinyu. She takes out an item that begins to shine, making the Prota ask what it was. Qi Wei says it's a gift she prepared for him, congratulating him on successfully completing the first change. He accepts it gladly, thanking her for all the years she took care of him. Feng takes out an item, saying he had prepared a gift for her as well. The item is the Sacred Wings of legendary quality, which grants an additional 20 spirit points, 50% more health recovery and healing effects, as well as 100% more resistance to darkness. She is impressed by the quality of the item, as the no need to chant effect can save lives in critical moments. Qi Wei says she can't accept it, as it's too valuable, but Feng insists, saying it's just an item he got during the class change mission, asking her not to be shy and accept it. Feng hands over the item and turns to leave, saying his friend is waiting, and if she doesn't mind, he's going to go now. The teacher watches him from afar, thinking about the legendary gift she had just received from him. Qi Wei heads to the office of the adventurer's examiners to report what happened. After the teacher explains everything, Jing looks at the crystal, saying she has never seen a situation like that, asking if there's any possibility that the superiors might consider Feng a threat. Jing, tired, asks to let it go and end it there. The teacher is intrigued, asking Jing what she meant by end it there. Jing makes it clear that her student might be beyond what they understand at this point, and if he truly is a strong adventurer, they should try to recruit him as much as possible instead of investigating him and needlessly irritating him. Her advisor asks if they should report it. Jing replies no and requests to stop the investigation into Feng immediately. All related information should be kept highly confidential. Qi Wei immediately agrees, thinking that Feng is young and without much background. Protecting him this way is more than appropriate. Jing, still intrigued, responds that since Feng doesn't want to expose his secrets, they should shift their attention to Duan. Currently, they need all the talents they can recruit, and one more strong ally wouldn't hurt. Back at Feng's house, Duan, calling the Prota Sir, notices that he seems a bit upset. Feng, slumped on the couch, replies that the teacher just sent him a message saying that they canceled the investigation on him. Duan asks if that isn't good news. Looking like a living zombie, the Prota responds that he's worried about how he'll train in the future, as every time he destroys a domain, it always attracts a lot of attention. He's even drawn the attention of the authorities, and if he continues, eventually, he'll face a lot of trouble. Duan becomes irritated, thinking that it's not easy being a great leader, as even his problems seem different from those of ordinary people. He had never imagined that destroying a domain would be like that, and if he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't know how to react. He gets an idea and asks Feng if it wouldn't be possible to train in unregistered domains, which gets Feng a little more excited. Duan explains that recently, with the world's changes, many new domains have appeared. Some of them aren't managed by the authorities due to a lack of resources, while others are occupied by evil forces. Immediately, the Prota perks up, saying that could be a great solution, and quickly asks if Duan has information on these domains. Duan replies that he currently has information on 2 of them, and can look for more if needed. Relieved, Feng thanks him, thinking that acting like an ordinary person will surely be more effective than acting like a student. And, looking at his supreme black card, He thinks about selling his loot at the trade market and resting a bit. After all, improving his use of curses shouldn't put him behind others. That's all, folks. If you enjoy the video, subscribe and hit the bell. Thanks.